6 o'clock, our special call meeting. We've got one item on the agenda. And what the item is we've been approached by Goodwin Mills, who's worked with us on several things, to basically put in some additional anchorage into a wetlands conservation easement, a wetland stream bank. And having said that, I sent all y'all kind of an overview of it. Lee Walters, who's actually been working with us for 4 years on this, I'm gonna let him kind of talk through the opportunity, and then we'll toss it around a little bit as a board, and we'll see if we can move this forward.
Sure.
Lee?
Yeah.
Why don't you sit up? Yeah.
So in 2014,
Just pull up a chair.
yeah, there was a project that needed. There's two types of mitigation. There's wetland mitigation and stream mitigation. So there is basically available wetland mitigation in South Alabama, but there's not available stream mitigation. So if you impact a stream, you have to get a Corps permit and you have to provide stream mitigation. So in 2014, we approached the airport and talked to them about, they had a piece of property, actually Waterhole Branch, the stream that runs right next to the airport, to do restoration on that, which if you've driven out there, you've probably seen it. We cleared all the exotics, popcorn, privet, all the trees that aren't supposed to be there, planted it back in hardwood trees that are all growing up right now and actually looking pretty good. So we were able to marry up a project that needed mitigation and perform the mitigation on that piece of property. And so the opportunity arose again. There's another project that may need mitigation down here for stream mitigation. So I told Joe, hey, we have another opportunity. The idea, I guess, Joe, back in 2014 was to continue this on. You know, we've done it in one spot now, and if we can bring that, continue on down the stream and provide it for other projects, then we can do that as well. So trying to marry that up. So
We've got about 35 acres, about another 1,500 to 1,600 linear feet of stream that we can mitigate.
and the good news about this is property that's down in the floodway. There's wetlands, there's floodplain, doesn't have development potential. So there's an opportunity to kind of get some money back from the airport authority on property that otherwise probably really can't be developed to begin with. So it's kind of a win for everybody. GMC is trying to propose this, so there's mitigation to be done and activities that have to be done. That would fall on the responsibility of my firm. And then, of course, the beneficiary is hopefully the airport authority by getting some money in this transaction as well. And then on the other side, the group that needs the mitigation credits, it's serving their need as well. So it's kind of a
And you'll
threefold.
actually clean the stream up, you'll take out the exotics.
That's right.
And it'll look a lot nicer than it is now.
That's correct. So the goal many years from now, we all do this through the Corps of Engineers, so we have to perform annual monitoring reports, send that to them. They come out, can inspect it if they want to, but the end of it is those trees are all going to grow up. The land is put into what's called a restrictive covenant, so it basically means that it can't be developed any time moving forward. And so it'll stay in those bottomland hardwood trees and eventually, hopefully, be an amenity and something nice, you know, for everybody involved. So.
And at some point in time, I mean, you're the owner, Goodwin Mills, Kaywood, but I mean, you could give it back to the airport at some point in time.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, obviously, an engineering firm, we don't want to own land long-term, so we think this is an opportunity to provide for a project. And then, so the way we did it the first time is we actually purchased the property, put it into a restrictive covenant. We're still on the hook currently, even today, from the work in 2014 to do the work that we were required to do. Eventually, the Corps of Engineers will sign off and say, everything's done like you said it was going to do, you're free. At that point, the intent was always for us to donate the land back to the airport or whoever, a conservation or a holder or whatever you guys want done with the property. But for us to hold the property long-term really doesn't provide much.
But it has to stay in that conservation easement.
Yeah,
The covenant will
No matter
stay.
who owns it.
The
And
covenant will
Would
stay.
you still not have a custodian of that, even if you transferred ownership back in 20 years? I thought that there always still had to be a custodian to do those annual reports.
There's
Is that when
no, the annual reports are due until the Corps say that they're no longer needed. So, but then you're right, there's two types of ways that you can put property. You can either put it in a conservation easement, which that does require a third party, hold it forever. We did not do that. We just put it in a restrictive covenant. So it just means that a covenant follows this. So if we gave it back to you and you tried to do something in the future, you could sell it again in the future, but whatever you do with it, it has to stay in that covenant.
I think we structured it the last time to where there's actually an automatic right of reversion to the airport authority once GMC is done and fulfilled its obligation to the Corps.
I think that's exactly right. So anyway, there's an opportunity that's there that may work for this, trying to line this up. But even if in these projects, you never know where the mitigation is going to go. We're going to try to make it work. But even if it doesn't, this opportunity will come again, hopefully with another project, so it's good to kind of get in front of you guys.
But there's a real opportunity out there.
Yeah, there's a project that needs
That's what we're
mitigation
doing.
right now
Yeah.
that we're hoping to try to marry up and let that be something we can execute right now, so that's right.
Without sounding greedy, in the future, you've given this 5 acres back, that cannot be used again for mitigation.
Correct. Once it's used for mitigation and it's already once it's put in that permanent protection, then it's not eligible to do that
But
again.
Vince, we could make it into a walking trail. We could do, well, I mean, if we had an industrial park over there, we could make it into a wooded walking trail or a lot of other things other than, we just couldn't
I was
cut.
just making sure we couldn't sell it again if they gave it back to us for mitigation credit.
That's right. That's right.
Once the popcorn and privet take back over again, they may allow it.
Man, I tell you, this site's pretty good because Waterhole Branch doesn't start too much north of 32, and that's all ag field. So there's not a lot of exotics coming into that property. What's already there is what's there. So we feel like once we get a control of that, and we're already doing the 5.5 acres to the north, so.
I thought we had about 50 or 52
I think it's
acres or so.
30
Was it only 35?
Yeah, I mean, there's a stretch that basically just follows Waterhole Branch. We're really looking at about 200 feet on each
Yeah,
side of the
total
creek,
number that
kind of a
you're
swath going all the way down.
I think it's around 39 acres.
It may be total, yeah.
We
So
can do it
the first
again.
deal, Joe passed these out, but y'all can pass those around if you want.
End up in Turkey Ranch.
I don't know where Waterhole ends up, to be honest with you. Yeah, eventually it does. So this map that's going around now, it just shows the current mitigation boundary. That's the one that was done in 2014. It's about 5.5 acres. And what we're looking at is just basically continuing along Waterhole Branch. That blue line there is the actual creek bed itself. And you'll see that buffer kind of lines up with that as well. And it's about 11.5 acres, somewhere in that ballpark. And so this has not been surveyed on the ground, so don't take this as, final boundary kind of thing, but just trying to give you a visual representation of what we're looking at.
How does this fit in with the unofficial west side development plan we have with the road that runs all the way back? And where does it run?
We've had several conversations with Lee Lawson, and this does not in any way impact any development as far as that.
But we had a plan that went all the way back here on the backside. I know it's not concrete by any stretch.
Not- yeah.
How does it affect that road that would run all the way?
I think that road was on the other side. I think we tried to stay on
It was on the west side of the stream.
west side, yes, sir.
West side of the stream.
The only-
East side of the stream, west side of the airport.
Yeah. The development plan we looked at a few months ago had the road running parallel to this, and we will avoid any infringement on that.
But between here, I don't want to landlock ourselves.
Yeah, we don't want any unintended consequences.
Right. I'm asking with the road that's on the map that we looked at, had some cul-de-sacs, et cetera.
Yeah. You hadn't seen that. I'll send you that.
Okay.
I don't think it has a problem, but
Okay.
he has not seen that.
We do need to double check that.
Yeah.
This is a good opportunity. We'll be sure we don't wind up getting ourselves landlocked.
We spent all our time looking at the other one, we haven't spent. And I'll
This
send,
creek gets right up behind the T-Hanks
Yeah.
quickly.
There's nothing, I'll mention this too, what you're seeing on this map, there's nothing absolutely magical about that boundary that's drawn. Those boundaries can come in. If they were to come in, you would probably just need to go a little bit further along the stream, if that makes sense. So we're looking for a certain number of credits to generate it. So it doesn't have to be what's shown on this map. It can come in, come out. I mean, all that stuff can be taken into account.
Two ways to look at that. You want it to be squatty so that you can get more acreage or get more linear feet, hence more acreage in the future, but not at the expense of not being able to back up. 'Cause
Absolutely.
if somebody had the back of a lot, and it was just the last 80 feet, and it,
That's right.
easier to sell that than.
Absolutely.
How many credits would this get your project?
We haven't run the total numbers yet. I mean, it's somewhere in the 3,000 to 4,000 credit range. And that's probably, the first one I want to say was probably about half that, about 1,500 credits or so, 2,000 credits. So everything's kind of preliminary, but I think this is kind of, basically trying to mimic what we did the first time, but we just need about twice as many credits as we did the first time.
And when you say this is totally undevelopable, what about a road with a,
Well, I
like to
mean,
use the word bridge, it wouldn't really be a bridge, but
yeah,
could
so.
that happen?
It can, yeah. So, I mean, generally, what you're looking at is there's floodway, there's a 100-year floodplain, and then there's wetlands. So this area's not been delineated that I know of, but overlaying, I know Eric with the city provided some floodway, floodplain maps. So like with anything else, you would have to get that properly permitted, and you'd have to provide mitigation and all that for that. But to say that you could put a road, that you could not put a road across that, that's not accurate.
Now,
You could.
On the east side, this is a stretch, but we had a blue water stream that we did fill in to build on the east side. It cost us $70,000 worth of wetland. We had to buy wetlands credit in Atmore.
Yeah, one of the
We had
mitigation
to actually get a
banks,
core permit. We had to actually buy $70,000 of wetlands credits to fill in, and it couldn't have been more than 700 feet.
Mm-hmm.
It was expensive. I mean, it was expensive enough. We looked at not putting it right there.
Yeah. I think that's what's attractive for projects like this, and the project we did back in 2014, there's not a local option for stream mitigation. So, they're having to go places far off to get that mitigation.
So that brings me to my next question. The last time we did this was 2014, and I don't know if we can talk about pricing here if we're not in executive session, but I've seen the proposed offer. Is it more valuable now than it was 4 years ago? I mean, and I know that we may be talking about a small amount, but, we also have a responsibility to absolutely get as much as we can for this land. Is there any room to get a little more? I mean, you said there's no stream mitigation property in Baldwin County.
So generally what happens on projects like this is they basically try to get quotes or bids or whatever you want to call it from all available groups that can provide credits to them. And it just becomes a cost competitive thing. So at the end of the day, they're generally going to go with the one that's least expensive. So we've got to be competitive in the sense, but at the same time, Jack, yeah, there might be a way to get a little bit
And I'm
more.
thinking a lot, but I mean, if it was another 1,000 or 2,000
Yeah.
acre.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything, at the end of the day, that's a factor in what the total bid would be that is competitive. So it's got to be the right price for that entity to want to move forward. So there is a Corps of Engineers preference to go to mitigation banks, so that's a good thing. But at the same time, it generally comes down to whoever's going to provide them the most cost-effective solution.
So is this a fee simple deed with appropriate restrictions? We're deeding it, fee simple?
You can probably answer that better
In
than I.
essence, it is a fee simple deed, but it contained, or if we approached like we did the last time, it would contain a right of reversion, meaning that once GMC did everything that it was supposed to do in terms of its reporting obligation to the Corps, property would automatically revert back to the airport authority.
So is
And-
GMC
and-
getting other quotes on any other wetlands mitigation streams?
For this particular project, we're not. No, ma'am. We do mitigation projects all over the state, but for this particular project, this is the one that we're looking at to try to fit their needs for down here. We're not really pitching any other sites. This is something that we kind of laid the groundwork 4 years ago and had the intent to come back to you guys when the opportunity was there. So we're trying to marry it up again on this one. And I told Joe, there's another one that we're watching that could be 6 months off, but I could be right back in front of you with another potential opportunity. So I think these things are going to keep coming. And if we've got property that makes sense, that doesn't inhibit on the big plans for what you guys are doing out there, and it's in land that is pretty difficult to develop anyway, hopefully it makes sense for everybody.
What's the minimum off the center line of that?
The minimum you can get credit for is 50 feet.
That looks like that's about what they.
Yeah, there was something coming in there. I think it was maybe a spillway or something coming off of one of the ponds or something that was there. We had to actually come in and cut away from that and not include that in the first project. So these lines can get anywhere from 50 feet is what you get credits for on each side. So 100 total, all the way up to 200 on each side, or 400 total.
So
That's the max.
Jack was saying the squattier the better, would be better for the airport in the long run. So if necessary, we'd go 50 feet and slide the whole thing towards one side
Correct.
to accommodate the road on either side.
Yeah, so this can be manipulated in a way that if you come back and say, hey, we need to squeeze it in here or whatever, it's kind of what you're saying, Jack. I mean, the best thing is you really want to butt it up as close as you can because you want to keep it tight so you have more future opportunity. But at the same time, if you're impeding something that you're trying to do now, then you can avoid that and push it further or however you need to. So that there's nothing, like I said, magical about what's drawn. It's just you know, if that fits your needs, that's probably the most efficient way to keep it where you have future opportunities.
We had a conversation with Eric Cortinas, and he wanted us to take the whole floodway. I mean, that was his preference, and I didn't commit to that. That was his preference, to put all of it, you know, in the easement.
And you could do that. You would probably come in a little bit and take up more of your linear footage by doing that. And obviously you're minimizing future opportunities by doing that.
I'm just asking a lot of questions. so I
Sure,
don't know.
sure.
If we needed to hug this line right here and move this as far as we could to the east, without extending this farther, can we move this line farther away, or they want?
They look at it as like stream side A and stream side B. So the most you can get is 200. So you can't really drop to 50 on one and then go to 400 on the other, if that makes
50 on
sense.
one to 200.
Correct, correct. The minimum is 50 on one side, and then the maximum is 200 on one side. Correct.
How
You
do
do-
you describe it for a
That allows
deed, the
room
number
for
of
our road
feet?
problem.
We've actually, the first time, we actually went out and surveyed it. So we created an actual survey that showed it was 5.46 acres, and it was actually a legal description, and our firm does that. We have surveying in-house as well.
And we had to subdivide it
Yeah.
through the city.
That's right.
Have to do the same process again.
And we'll need that legal description to record that restrictive covenant anyway.
Do we need FAA approval?
I don't, we didn't get it before. I checked, that was a thing I
This
checked.
doesn't match our AIP plan.
No, but this isn't in the airport either.
Right.
I mean, this is not this is not inside the fence.
I agree.
I remember having those conversations with Mr. Zunt the first time, and I think he had a few phone calls and checked enough boxes, I guess, to make sure, but.
Mr. Chairman, what do you need tonight? Do you need a vote to
I would-
allow you to negotiate the sale?
Yes.
Is that what you need?
I'd like to allow me to negotiate the sale over in that, and I'll
So
report.
we're not accepting that until
We
you
don't-
bring that back to the authority again.
We'll bring that back in our.
For a final vote after you
our meeting in
negotiate.
May. Yes. But we need to get we need to get a proposal in.
I make a motion that we have chairman negotiate a sales price for this.
Do we want to set a minimum?
I don't know that we want to say it in here, but, I mean, he's got to negotiate it. I mean, we can reject the price at any time. That's why he's saying you're just negotiating the price, you're not executing it.
I'll second that.
Any more discussion, Vince?
So after the negotiation, you bring back the proposal?
Hopefully, when the May meeting, we'll bring the proposal back.
It'd be fine.
Okay? I mean, 2 weeks, you should know something kind of where we are.
I would think so. Yes, sir.
That meet your time frame?
It'd be
And
fine.
I'd like to, that's not part of the motion, but just discussion. We do probably need to, you know, and through this process, definitely look at that proposed road and where it was and make sure that it makes sense, that it's not too close, that we have worthless land on one side. Because if it's 20 feet away, we might as well go 20 feet to the west
We
and
need
butt
to
up
make
against
sure
it.
all
Or,
that due
you know,
diligence.
something like that, just so that it makes sense, that we can maximize land, whether in that portion it's on the east or the west.
I'll
Who
send,
did that layout?
HMR. I will send you that copy of that. I'll send all of y'all a copy of it because we hadn't looked at it in a while.
Okay.
I'll send you a copy of our proposed platted subdivision. It's really about 12 lots that would hold about a 20,000 square foot building on each one of them. But there's no rhyme or reason. It's just I preferred, you know, if we had how we would develop it. I'll also get a firm yay or nay from Kevin Morgan with the FAA before we do anything, okay? All right. Still have the motion
In a second.
and a second. All those in favor of the motion, which is allow the chairman to negotiate with Lee to put this to bed and then bring it back for final approval in our May regular meeting, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it, and we'll go forward.
Great.
And with that said, we'll adjourn the meeting.
Thank you very much.
The
Thank you.
motion in order for adjournment? I'll make it.
Oh, Julie.
Move with you.
Jack,
I'll move that we,
okay, do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor of adjourning the meeting?
Aye.
Any opposed?